thirst for knowledge.
Hey, we live at a time where abbreviations are easily thrown around. Abbreviations can be easily simplified as well, especially those that have to do with mental conditions. And it's one of those pet peeves that I have, like throwing around like mental health statements and making them generic when it's actually very serious what we're talking about. OCD is one of those that we throw around very easily in conversations, and we use OCD as an adjective, and we don't really know that there are many people who are struggling with it as a disorder. We're speaking about obsessive-compulsive disorder today, characterized by recurring unwanted thoughts and obsessions, repetitive behaviors, and it can actually have a huge impact in daily life. People often wonder whether OCD can be cured or if we will have to manage it for the rest of our lives. When you do have OCD, what is the way to actually treat it? That we're going to be talking about it today with Dr. Keitumetse Mashego, a sports and clinical psychologist. Doctor, welcome on the show.
Thank you for having me. Good to be back.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about OCDing. You know, it's so easy to say, I'm an OCD person. You have to serve me much better. This table is so dirty. Please call your manager. I want this sorted out because just this one stain here, I don't appreciate it. But that could be just a crutch for you because you just want better service and you're using something very serious to actually get your way. But OCD is something that can cripple many people's lives. It's not just generic and something that's just like hoo-ha that we can just use as an everyday term because we want a clean surface.
Definitely. OCD is one of the misused or overused and improperly used terms out there because people use it in their daily language or the things that they say daily and, own it as a badge of honor sometimes to say, I have OCD. But those who have OCD, I don't think they choose it. I don't think they want it. It's exhausting. It's debilitating. And for anything to be a disorder, it has to be causing severe dysfunction, meaning you struggle with basic things, right? Because you are diagnosed with the thing. For us to diagnose you with it, it means it's causing really severe malfunctioning in one area or another. Meaning someone, for example, who has, the compulsion to wash their hands because they, like 10 times, they will do that and they will not do it. They will not stop in the middle of it because they're late for work or they're late for a meeting. If they haven't completed that ritual of washing their hands 10 times, they will not leave that sink until it is done.
Hey, Dr. Keitumetse, thank you for joining us on our live feed. It's good to see you there. We're streaming live, and I see you wearing your Oprah Winfrey cool glasses there. Let's talk a little bit about the OCD in terms of when it is serious, right? Because it's always serious, I think. But it's difficult to figure it out because at times you think it's your mind playing games on you. At times it's just something not serious because the patterns that we're talking about are things that everyday people could actually have themselves. I used to have this big thing okay, that's why I don't iron in the morning anymore, because I would iron in the morning and I'd walk out, and then on my way to work I'm like, did I really take out the iron? I can't remember. I remember ironing, but did I take it out of the plug? But it's not that simple. It's not that generic, right? It's actually something that becomes a routine that is something you cling onto as a way of surviving in your day. And it can actually cripple your day because you think if this thing doesn't get done the way I do it, then I'm not going to continue with the rest of the day. How do you distinguish the patterns that we have that can be easily seen as OCD to actually as a real OCD moment?
So maybe let's explain what OCD is, which is Obsessive-Compulsive Disorder.
Sure.
Meaning there's an obsession, meaning someone has this obsessive thought, and usually it has patterns. So for some people, it's fear, let's take of germs, right? So that's a thought, that's a fear they have. It leads to a compulsive behavior. the compulsion, the compulsion behavior, the compulsive behavior could be washing of hands 10 times. So it's almost like a ritual they perform in order to overcome the fear that they have of germs. So we need to understand that, it falls under the umbrella of anxiety disorders, meaning there's a severe anxiety, underlying anxiety that happens for this person. And with all the disorders, they run on a tangent, meaning you've got your severe, mild, moderate types of impact on a person, and hence you do get where it's very severe and a person is really not functioning. They need not only psychotherapy but medication as well. But what you've described, where you're saying you iron and you don't recall, I always say to people that is different to OCD. If it's not necessarily, there's no ritualistic behavior that happens. It's more that when you're ironing, you're not present in that moment, right? So you are on soldier mode and you're ironing and you're not present. You're not mindful. Right? Maybe you're thinking about the traffic or thinking about work. You're there ironing and you get out of the house and on autopilot because you were already in the traffic in your mind when you were ironing. Then when you do get into the traffic, then you're wondering, did I actually, switch off that iron? So that's more not being mindful or present. So that's a lack of mindfulness more than it is OCD. It's more that, you were not present in that moment to create a core memory because you were preoccupied with traffic or the potential traffic that you're going into. And I always say to people that the mind is like a sponge. Whatever you feed it, it creates it as reality. So when you are imagining that traffic in your mind, it's really there, that traffic, even though you're not in the traffic physically. And when you are then, doing what you're doing while you're thinking of the traffic, you're not present with the iron. Therefore, that's why you don't recall. Sometimes it's locking the door. You're so thinking about the traffic or whatever it is, traffic from yesterday, you are bringing it into today. It becomes a real thing in your mind, in your reality. And when you do actually get out, you don't remember locking because you were not present in that kitchen.
Dr. Mashego, is it common for people in our communities to go undiagnosed with OCD, and why would that be?
It's because it's psychological symptoms or disorders are sometimes things that we think are weird. Some people think it's crazy that that person is doing that, or we are dismissive of them and we think we must snap out of them, right? And so when someone is doing this, on the outside, it might not seem like it's such a big deal until, for example, you can see how it impacts this person. For example, if they're unable to wash their hands 10 times or to do certain things, in order to relieve that stress, that underlying anxiety that they're struggling with, hence they do have the symptoms of OCD because there's underlying anxiety. So it goes undiagnosed because I think people just cannot comprehend that someone will struggle with something that, such as a thought about something, and it become so debilitating. So it's almost like a weird phenomena, but definitely it goes undiagnosed because people, and I think also they will say, snap out of it to that person, or they will deem them crazy when they are doing these rituals.
All right. I mean, we're going to talk a little bit more about how it manifests itself differently, and we've highlighted some of those ways that it manifests, but also how do you actually deal with it? Is it curable? Is there medication? Someone is like, is there medication for this, or do you need therapy around it? We'll talk a little bit about that, Dr. Keitumetse, after the break. Dr. Keitumetse Mashego joins us for our Live Well feature today. She's a sports and clinical psychologist. We'll continue after the break.
We are on Open Views Audio Bouquet. Palesa and Benjamin fuel your day with fresh African perspective on Channel Africa.
We're unpacking OCD, commonly known as Obsessive-Compulsive Disorder this morning on The Move. Dr. Keitumetse Mashego continues to chat to us about this highly trivialized mental health condition, but also raising awareness on what exactly it is and how it works, but also the treatments that one who is diagnosed with OCD can have. I want to break this down a little bit, because usually when we say OCD, we see it as just one term meaning just one condition. But when you actually say the full word, obsessive-compulsive disorder, you realize that there are actually more than one thing that's taking place at the time. So the obsessive stands for the obsessions that can take place, and compulsions might not actually be the same thing. So I'd like to look at those things separately. Could you explain obsessions versus compulsions to us and how those can manifest?
So the obsessions range, different people obsess over different things. As I said, it could be something that they are thinking, or fears, meaning someone could think, okay, before I cross the traffic light, I must look left and right 10 times before I actually cross. Right? That's a thought. And it could be that, maybe something has happened before or not, but it's this thing that they have developed that they need to do. So it's a thought that they have. It could be also a fear that one has that's obsessive, meaning with germs, right? So meaning everything that they see is germ. So before they touch anything, they probably are of view that this thing has germs. So how do I get rid of these germs before I touch this thing? And then the compulsive behavior, or the ritual, right? That someone who must now, for example, who thinks I must look 10 times either side before I cross the traffic light, you will see them doing that literally before they cross. Even if they looked the first time and it was empty or safe to cross, they still will not cross until they've done it 10 times.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's what they have told, they have sort of internalized that this is what will relieve me from whatever it is that I fear, or the anxiety I have around this. I have to do it 10 times.
Yeah.
And that's where you realize that it's deeper than just someone who is careful about crossing the road. And then with the fear of contamination, then in that example, someone would want to wash their hands with a specific product and maybe specific number of times, meaning maybe as they are washing, they want to count to 10, some to 20 before they finish. So now you can imagine now if they don't have access to a basin, or maybe there's no water that day. Right? Or the soap or the sanitizer they use is not there. You can imagine how they're going to feel. Now they're going to feel as if, so it's almost like when they do the ritual, it relieves them in a way for that moment until the next moment. Because it doesn't stop. It doesn't.
Yeah, I want to speak about impact on life, because some of these, the examples that you're giving us, I know there can be like 1,000 or millions of examples depending how these obsessions or compulsions manifest themselves for a particular individual. But one would say, okay, if you need to look 10 times before you cross a road, that doesn't sound like something that would really impact your life in a terrible way. So let's speak about that, the impact of life of OCD, and how bad that impact can get. Can life get unlivable with one who has OCD?
Definitely for themselves, actually, it can be just unbearable. And hence I started off our chat to say, I don't think anybody wants to have OCD. It's not nice. It's uncomfortable. I don't think anybody would choose it if, you could choose it. So it's it can create quite a lot of dysfunction in your personal life, in relationships, in terms of even at the workplace. You can imagine if you are late and now you have to do this ritual, and if you don't do it, it's not like you're going to be functional, right? Because if you didn't do it 10 times, now in that meeting, all you're thinking about is...
Oh, I think we've lost the doctor there. Let's see if we can try get her back, because I wonder when it comes to that if it's all about just what's happening in your mind. That means you would have maybe to get therapy to sort that out, or do you really need also medication in other times? But we'll see if we can get the doctor back on that one, because as you can hear, it's very, very serious according to our guests. Let's take a bit of a breather and try re-establish that line.
9 to 12 midday Central African Time. On the Move with Palesa Tau and Benjamin Moshatama.
We're discussing obsessive-compulsive disorder, also known as OCD. Dr. Keitumetse Mashego, clinical and sports psychologist, has been helping us really unpack this condition, especially because it's one that's been highly trivialized in many of our communities and in our social circles and on social media, where people use OCD just as a form of saying, hey, you know what, I particular thing in a particular way, and that's so OCD, but definitely not the right way to use anything that has to do with mental health conditions. We're raising awareness and understanding this particular condition better to really understand what life is like for those who live with OCD, but also to better understand, hopefully, what one can do when they've been diagnosed. So let's speak about that really quickly. We need to take our news break. What is the solution? I mean, these doesn't sound like these obsessive or thoughts or compulsive thoughts that happen in the minds of those who have OCD are easy to go away. Is this something that is medicated or, taken through therapy to resolve? And is it resolvable at all, or is something that's just manageable?
So it depends on the context, but usually someone must start with psychotherapy, seeing a clinical psychologist, and they can make a judgment call to see if medication is needed. Because remember, it's this thing of anxiety. It could be this depression traits as well. Mm-hmm. So depending on the context, but definitely because of how it impacts the functioning. By the way, when someone washes their hands, sometimes they wash it until their hands become raw, meaning they use brushes. You know what I mean? Because the intensity or the fear or the belief that they have been contaminated is so severe. So we really need to do that. And sometimes it could be that they have progressed into a psychotic process, meaning that they have actually, it's almost like a psychotic psychosis that's happening as well. So we also need to rule that out and medicate for it if needed. It's not like that for everyone, but definitely we need to assess to see how we can help. But definitely there is a good prognosis for some people where only psychotherapy can help and ongoing, and if there is a stress, they might want to relapse into the behaviors again. So then they can go check in again with their clinical psychologist.
Joel, just quickly as we wrap up, Dr. Mashego, because we use these terms like obsessed so easily, one might not know when it's time to actually get a diagnosis. So could you really quickly tell us, when is it the right time to go get help?
When you are struggling with your daily functioning at some point or another, be it personal relationship. So, for example, if you were trying to sleep and then you can see that you didn't do the ritual and you have to wake up and do the ritual. So if it's interrupting any functioning of yours, be it personal or at work, please seek help to check in. Yes.
All right, we'll leave it there because we've run out of time. Thank you so much for your time and for helping us raise awareness and unpack this conversation. That's Dr. Keitumetse Mashego, clinical and sports psychologist, helping us understand obsessive-compulsive disorder a lot better. It's 11:32 Central Africa time. So sorry for being late, Musibudi. Let's get our latest sports news.